Kicking off the list at number 10, a friendly spokesperson. Back in 2007, The Simpsons hit the big screen. We had to pay movie admission prices to see the Spider Pig bit. Which, more than fair, that's a great bit. We're still talking about it. It's good stuff. The Simpsons movie was full of celebrity cameos, obviously. I mean, it starts off with Green Day. The band Green Day is animated and they play in this movie. How fun. Tom Hanks also makes an appearance, which is always fun. He just shows up and says, "Hi, I'm Tom Hanks." One of the most memorable lines in the movie, oddly. But Mr. Hanks continues this bit by saying the US government has lost its credibility, so now it's borrowing some of his. Funny line, but cut to 2022, Tom Hanks still looks great, ages like fine wine of course, but now he's a real-life spokesperson for the US government. This time around, he's not animated and he's supporting the Biden administration. Good thing it's not Chet Hanks, or else it'd be a little bit different. Number 9. Billionaires in space. I think we can all agree that it's a little annoying when billionaires just, float around in space for an hour. I don't want to see you breakdance for a bit, Richard Branson. I'm good, I'm all set. I don't want to stir up a political debate thing here or whatever, but I'm working to pay off my student loans and billionaires are leisurely floating around in the cosmos, just because they can. When will it be enough? When is being rich on our planet going to be enough? The Simpsons predicted Richard Branson's space excursion back in season 25, in the episode titled The War of Art. That was back in 2014, and recently Richard Branson blasted off planet to float around Virgin Airlines for a bit. Just because he could. Just felt like it. He was like, yeah, debit. And right now, NASA and Tom Cruise are partnering up to make movies in space. The next Mission Impossible is going to be in space for some reason. That's awesome. I can't wait to see the trailer. What about my student loans though? I'll buy a ticket once I pay my loans off. Now we're talking. Number 8, music control. I honestly can't wait for future technology when it comes to music. I'm a sucker for good headphones. I love it. Adele 30. I'm cranking that album my entire commute. So good. Sometimes you hear an album that moves you, but what if the music literally moved you? What if in the future music could control your thoughts? Scary stuff, right? In a 2001 episode titled New Kids on the Block, this episode showed Bart in a band that was secretly doubling down as a mind control device for the Navy. Subliminal messages through music, we've heard of this before of course. Stairway to Heaven played backwards is a thing, apparently. In Spy Kids, the Floops, they were calling for help backwards via music. He's like, Floop is a madman, help us, save us. It's been stuck in my head for 20 years. This idea has spooked young Taylor a few times, so obviously I had to share. Is this a possibility in the future? Hip-hop artist The Game, right now, he believes that the internet is brainwashing people into liking whack music. Yeah, it's not always military messages and all that, could be just whack music, but never say never. Could we see the day the military sends out subliminal messages? Maybe Dawn to 3, hashtag Dawn to 3, hashtag join the Navy, I don't know. Number 7, virtual reality. While working from home, I obviously got an Oculus. I got my first VR set, and let me tell you, I've never felt more sick in my life. Oh my gosh. Virtual reality is great and it's getting better and better, but how much further can we get? How is this gonna affect us in the future? Will the metaverse be a new hangout spot instead of going outside? I'm kind of on board with this. In the Simpsons episode back in 2016 titled Friends and Family, a new virtual reality headset arrives to Springfield, and it's good. It's really good. It's so good residents can't keep their eyes off it. They're walking around in the streets while wearing headsets. Cars are swerving around people wearing their own headsets. Everybody's in their own virtual worlds, but in real time, it's chaos. This is the near future, according to The Simpsons. Honestly, I'm here for it. I'll play anybody in Beat Saber. Good game. Better stay out of my way, honestly. I'm like Darth Maul when it comes to Beat Saber. Wild. Guitar Hero I couldn't figure out. Beat Saber though? Number 6, holograms. Ever since I saw Star Wars, I've wanted holograms. I wanted hologram mail since I was 7 years old. Like in Star Wars, just how cool would that be to appear in my brother's room out of nowhere via hologram? Father wishes to speak with you. What a dream that would be. The Simpsons predicted this would move into our daily lives come season 11, episode 17, appropriately titled Bart to the Future. Hologram mail, I mean, that sounds convenient, but what does chainmail look like in this world? It's kind of scary. How scary are pop-ups? Middle of a movie out of nowhere, it's like, hey, do you want a bigger, you won't last 5 seconds. I'm like, get out of here. Digital Domain was the company responsible for the Tupac hologram at Coachella back in 2012. Holotronica, another company, did the impossible at the Grammys in 2017. They made multiple Beyoncés perform at the same time. Yeah, I don't think we can handle more than one, to be honest. We flew too close to the sun with that one. I can't wait until holograms become a thing, honestly. I hope this happens. I can't wait to tell you to smash that like button in your living room. I'm like, yeah, hit that thumbs up, guys. Also, where's the bathroom? Number 5, Ivanka 2028. The Simpsons predicting Trump's presidency is pretty wild, I'll admit. I looked into that and I was like, really? How did this even happen? So this next one, honestly, who knows? Out of everything on this list, this one seems the most likely. I mean, yeah, better than hologram mail. Probably this will happen first. The Simpsons may have predicted another Trump presidency. This one comes from season 28, episode 4, Treehouse of Horror 27, so it's kind of funny. The episode originally aired on October 16th, 2016, and opens with Bart asking Homer why he's taking the family Christmas tree shopping on Halloween. And Homer replies, because in America, everything's way too early, revealing a pin that says Ivanka 2028. Number 4, Big Ben. You ever look at a clock with hands and it takes you like 7 seconds to really figure out what time it is? I can't do it. Sometimes you need a timepiece that's digital, you know, middle of the night, you can't see, you're having a nightmare, you look over. Digital is the way to go. You go to a wedding though, you're not wearing a digital watch. That's, you know, you're not doing laps on the dance floor. You're gonna try and look a little classy, wear some hands. The Big Ben, I hope, never goes digital. But the Simpsons are telling us this may be the case down the road. I don't know. Sad, right? I've only been to England once and I was so pumped to see the Big Ben in person, and I get there and I legit had no idea where it was. I felt so stupid. I felt like I got off at the wrong stop. I was like, where is this thing? It was underneath the scaffolding, right in front of me the whole time. In an episode from 1995, the future sees Lisa traveling to England, as did I, to meet her future husband's parents. And the Big Ben is digital in this future. Imagine every hour, instead of hearing a bell, you heard a notification bell instead. God, I'd be so stressed out. Every hour, everyone in London's like, you? Is it? What time is it? Number 3, robots. Sometimes I'll be watching TV, minding my own business, whatever, and then Alexa will come out of nowhere and be like, sorry, I didn't quite get that. Just out of the blue, so alarming, didn't ask anything. Is she always listening? How are we okay with this? Combine that with what's going on over at Boston Dynamics. I don't know, we have an apocalypse coming very soon. I've seen iRobot, we're screwed. We're setting up a Black Mirror episode, honestly. We're at a point now where robots can straight up do parkour. Boston Dynamics is trending every other week. I thought those videos of robots doing parkour, rolling around, I thought those were fake. No, we're that close. We're that good with robots now. They can squat and they can dance. Robots can dance now. Are you kidding me? The Simpsons have touched on robots taking over a few times, actually. In 2012, they predicted that a great amount of jobs would be lost to robots, which it's definitely happening right now. Even back in 1994, the Simpsons episode titled Itchy and Scratchy Land showed a theme park full of robots that go crazy and then end up attacking civilians. Hope that doesn't happen. But again, Boston Dynamics is like, hey, check it out, this one can do a flip. Sophia the robot, she's been on talk shows, she's a fun time. She's actually the first robot to receive citizenship from any country. So could this slowly be underway? Could robots slowly becoming normal things in our lives? What if they snap? I'm so scared. I hope not. iRobot predicted self-driving cars, so they're onto something as well. I'm so scared. Number 2, Mars. In the future, going to Mars might be as simple as going to the mall, only the commute is really, really long and boring. And you also can't come back until the planet swings back near Earth, so good luck. Hope your phone's charged. Cheers. One episode of The Simpsons shows the family visit the big red planet come 2051. But honestly, I feel like we're gonna get there a lot sooner. SpaceX is already planning to send people out there right now, and it's a quick 9-month trip there, so, you know, it's, again, boring. Make sure your things are charged. Also, watch out for galactic cosmic rays on this trip, because I heard those are a pain. No, you will not become the Fantastic Four. It'll just be all bad. It's actually more beneficial for the team to travel during these peak times in the 2030s and in the 2050s, because trips to the planet will be shorter because of the solar maximum. So in the future, yes. Near future, no. And finally, coming in at number 1, goodbye. A lot of government hologram hidden messages in this list, so let's finish her up on a nice prediction for the future. In season 11, episode 17, called Bart to the Future, a classic, we see a future where goodbyes are no longer needed or said. We stopped shaking hands recently, we got some distance in between us, so what's next? Could we not say goodbye to each other anymore? I'm kind of on board for this. No more awkward goodbyes, what a dream that would be. You ever say bye to somebody and then you have to walk the same way? Or you say bye, then you have to wait at a red light? That's always bad too, that one sneaks up on you. In this bright new future in The Simpsons, everybody says, smell you later. And then they skateboard away. That's perfect, let's go. Small talk and a pop shove it. This is the bright future we've been promised. It's close. I feel it.
Starting us off at number 10, Ivanka 2028. Now, you might remember a certain season 11 episode where The Simpsons accurately predicted the election of Donald Trump a whole 17 years prior to his actual inauguration. But could we be in for another presidential prediction? In 2016, before the initial Trump prediction had ever seen the light of day, it seems like they slyly added in another layer that will have us on edge for the next 6 years, waiting to see if it comes true. The Treehouse of Horror episode begins innocently enough, as Homer takes Bart shopping for a Christmas tree on Halloween, joking with his son that they're shopping because everything in America is way too early. But then, Homer opens up his Bender costume to reveal an Ivanka 2028 badge underneath, saying, "See?" as he giggles to himself in his classic Homer fashion. The scene then cuts, and it's never spoken of again. So what do you think? Will the prediction come true just as it did for Donald? Or will this be simply another silly Simpsons skit? Coming up next at number 9, the death of George Clooney. Now, The Simpsons seem to have predicted many celebrity deaths like Arnold Palmer, Kobe Bryant, and maybe even Queen Elizabeth II. But could they be right about our beloved actor George Clooney too? Now, in this Treehouse of Horror episode, Homer, in an attempt to use images of celebrities in ads without their consent, kills off both Prince and Neil Armstrong, who strangely enough have since passed. George Clooney is the third celebrity he kills by causing him to slip into quicksand on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, considering the fate of the first two celebs in this episode, it definitely seems a little creepy. Could The Simpsons be predicting that the end is near for Clooney? Let's just cross our fingers and hope that George is here to stay for a long while. Next up at number 8, suppression of green energy. Now, as our technology advances, so do our cars. We already have completely electric cars sweeping the market, and slowly but surely, it seems like we're making great strides towards cleaner energy sources. But are The Simpsons predicting that it could all be going downhill? In the 582nd episode of the series, Lisa invents a car powered by solar energy, something that's actually already starting to be developed in places like MIT. Lisa enters her car into an alternative energy derby race, but right as she's about to cross the finish line, a Duff blimp blocks out the sun, stopping her in her tracks immediately. While this may just seem like a silly coincidence, it wouldn't be out of pocket to think that huge conglomerates could be plotting ways to stop renewable energy sources, sabotaging the uprise of greener sources. Next up at number 7, the end of American civilization. In season 24, while visiting his usual spot, Moe's, Homer runs into a doomsday prepper who warns him of the inevitable social collapse. He goes on to tell him that anarchy lurks around every corner and that it will be the end of civilization, stating that it's coming home to an America near you. Homer responds to the prepper by saying, "America can't collapse, we're as powerful as ancient Rome." The doomsday prepper then goes on to show him a video detailing what he believes to be the inevitable decline of our civilization due to our dependence on the system. Like how if supermarkets close, we starve, or if taps get shut off, we'd be forced to drink the blood of animals? And by the end, has Homer completely convinced. Now, while I can't foresee it all playing out exactly as the video imagines, could The Simpsons be trying to tell us something? Will America as we know it cease to exist? I mean, you can already buy bunkers on the internet, so they wouldn't be the first ones to think so. Coming in at number 6, World War III. This season 6 episode contained many predictions that thankfully have yet to come true. And so I think it goes without saying why we're all praying that the same will be true for their prediction of another world war. Back in this 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding, she visits a psychic who sees 15 years into her future, telling her all about what her life will become. Now, I know, 15 years from 1995 was 2010, making it 12 years ago for us, but we still don't want to take our chances with this one. During the episode, Lisa's fiance Hugh goes out to Moe's bar with Homer, where Moe, learning that Hugh is British, snarkily hands him a beer, saying that it was they, meaning the US, who saved him during World War II. But Hugh is quick to reply, claiming, "Yeah, but it was us that saved you in World War III," which Moe admits is true. While I would love to say that this idea seems preposterous, Could the Simpsons be right? Are we in store for yet another world war? Let's just hope that they got this one totally wrong. Taking our number 5 spot, no more sunlight. Well, it's no secret we love the modern conveniences of electricity. I think we can all agree that nothing will ever replace that big ball of light in our sky. I don't know if any of you have ever lived in a basement apartment before, but I can tell you from experience that no sunlight in your house makes for a pretty awful time. So I can definitely say that I'm praying this season 7 prediction stays as far away from reality as possible. Mr. Burns, the local nuclear power plant owner of Springfield, decides that in order to fill his pockets, he'll force everyone in the town to use up more electricity by making the sun disappear. He goes on to create a giant plate at the end of a movable arm that completely blocks out the sun from the whole town, forcing the citizens to fully rely on artificial light to help them get around. Now, can I foresee a real-life billionaire pulling this off? Well, maybe not in the way that Mr. Burns decides to black out the sun, but is it impossible to imagine some uber-rich tycoon figuring out some sinister plan to make us all pay more in electricity and keeping natural light a thing of the past? All I can say is I sure hope it never comes true. Coming up at number 4, iRobot? I know we've all had that same nightmare. One day we wake up and the robots that once made our lives easier and better turn on humans, taking over the world and destroying everyone in their path. Well, this 1994 episode predicted a similar fate. While on a trip to visit Itchy and Scratchy Land in season 6, Homer and the family are left fearing for their life when a horde of high-tech robots come to life and wreak havoc, aiming to harm his family. Now, as this was Itchy and Scratchy Land, the robots were programmed to be violent, but a park employee tells them not to worry because the robots have been specifically programmed not to harm humans. Where have we heard that one before? Nothing could go wrong. Well, luckily Homer figures out that a camera flash immobilizes the bots and is able to save his family from their deathly fate. But let's just agree. Keep the robots away because as we've all learned time and time again, they will get too smart and we will all have to face the consequences. Next up at number 3, music mind control. It's a tale as old as time. It's the music that those young kids are listening to that's pointing them towards the devil's ways. We saw it with Elvis in the 50s, rock and roll bands in the 80s, and rappers in the 90s, where rumor had it that if you played the record backwards, you would hear the devil himself. And though of course all of that was nonsense, what if the government really did figure out a way to control the world's children through music? Well, according to this 2001 episode, it could become a reality. Titled New Kids on the Block, Bart finds himself meeting a music producer who offers him a chance to be a star and join a boy band with his friends Nelson, Ralph, and Milhouse. But it's not all as innocent as it seems when their single Drop Da Bomb is released and the line "Even et Neoj" is in the chorus. Well, of course, Lisa is quick to dive into this peculiar situation and realizes it's backwards for join the Navy. She is quick to confront this so-called manager of Bart only to find out that he's a Navy lieutenant and tells her that for a long time popular music has been used as a recruiting tool by the military. I don't know about you, but this one seems eerily possible, so I'm just definitely crossing my fingers that we don't see this happening. Coming in at number 2 is the zombie apocalypse. For as long as I can remember, zombies have been a huge part of pop culture, so it's no surprise the Simpsons seem to have a prediction about them too. In a 2009 Treehouse of Horror episode, the local burger joint Krusty Burgers releases a new menu item coined by the Krusty Clown as Burger Squared. All he does is take grade A beef cows, kill them, and then feed their meat to more cows. The second cows get turned into the burgers, and voila, a new masterpiece hits the town of Springfield. Well, until it starts turning the whole town into zombies, or as they call them, munchers, terrorizing the town and taking down everything in their path. While it seems far-fetched, could the Simpsons be onto something here? Could some strange, genetically modified meat be the cause of our societal collapse? And lastly, in our number 1 spot is the reanimation machine. While we are always suspecting an episode with Sideshow Bob to give us the heebie-jeebies to some extent, it really kicks it into high gear when he's on a Halloween special. Once again, in this Treehouse of Horror episode titled Wanted, Dead or Alive, Bob finally kills Bart just as he's been trying to do for years. But it's not just that. it's much, much worse. He doesn't just kill Bart once. Oh no. He kills him over and over and over again. With the help of his so-called reanimation machine, Bob is able to revive Bart, making it possible to kill him repeatedly in different ways and as many times as he likes. Well, to me, the science seems pretty impossible on this one. Can you imagine if such a machine was actually invented? If it got into the wrong hands, it could be detrimental to humanity and cause an insane amount of harm. So let's just hope that this one stays on the screen and far, far away from our lives.
Number 10. Interactive holograms. The season 11 episode Bart to the Future has been one of the most mentioned Simpsons episodes when it comes to predictions. It helps that it takes place in 2030, which at the time I'm recording this is still 8 years away. If YouTube is still around then and you're watching to see if any of these came true, let me know in the comments. I promise that I'll check. The episode most notably correctly predicted that Donald Trump would become president, but there were some other things that have yet to happen that could mean trouble for us in the future. In the beginning of the episode, Bart is watching Itchy and Scratchy, the gory version of Tom and Jerry, but instead of on the TV, he is watching a 3D hologram. While these are close to becoming a reality, with the likes of Tupac and even Homer himself being shown as holograms on stages, a 3D hologram that is interactive is far from our capabilities right now. The scary part of this is when blood gets sprayed all over the walls of the Simpson home from the cartoon. While the idea of an interactive hologram is cool, in practice I think that it could provide some real nightmare fuel. Before we get to our next entry, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you're enjoying the video so far. Number 9. Virtual takeover. I'm a lover of VR. You know, my headset probably gets the most use out of all of my gaming consoles, so I love the idea of VR becoming more immersive, and we're making some huge strides, like haptic technology that allows us to feel things happening in the virtual world, or full body and face capture technology to allow realistic bodies and movement in games. But one thing that is yet to happen that could be on the way is a mass adoption of VR on the scale of what happens in season 28 episode 2, where Mr. Burns discovers VR and the whole town of Springfield is using it to a point of near societal collapse. While virtual reality allows for some amazing things to happen and augmented and mixed reality have some more practical non-gaming applications, it's not out of the realm of possibility for us all to be walking around with some sort of crazy device strapped to our heads in the future that allows us to change the world we see. But the implications of losing touch with reality can be massive, and the episode proves it. So let's hope that if VR takes off like I think it can, that we keep our feet on the ground and in touch with the real world around us, and take the goggles off from time to time, or we'll forget to take care of our actual reality. Number 8. Hologram trees. The episode Lisa's Wedding from season 6 takes place in 2010, 15 years from 1995 when the episode was released, and unsurprisingly many of the predictions of the future have yet to come to pass, like Big Ben being replaced with a digital interface. But one that we should definitely not want to happen is the hologram trees that we see. While the thought of being able to switch from coniferous to deciduous at the drop of a hat is pretty fun, if they're just aesthetic, we could be in a world of trouble. Trees filter CO2 from our air and give us back oxygen, which is pretty nice of them. And unless the holograms have some CO2 scrubbing tech to come with them, replacing real ones with projections will have a dramatic impact on our atmosphere. We can already see the beginnings of this with deforestation, so let's focus on our real arborist friends rather than holographic ones. Number 7. Robot Rebellion. Them Robot was the 17th episode of the 23rd season, and in it we see Mr. Burns replacing all of his employees with robots except Homer to save costs. But one seems to be developing a personality when it understands Homer's working hard or hardly working joke. Homer eventually messes with the robots so much that they ignore the laws of robotics and attempt to kill Springfield residents. Obviously this would spell disaster in the real world as it does in the show, and we're moving towards more and more automation in the workplace, allowing humans to work less dangerous jobs and eventually allowing us to hopefully spend more time living life than working our time away. But we are nowhere near that point yet. The Simpsons dabbles with the idea a few times, like in the episode Itchy and Scratchy Land, where the animatronics gain sentience and attack parkgoers, a la Five Nights at Freddy's. AI gaining sentience has been the device of science fiction horror stories for such a long time, but it's becoming closer and closer to a real-life issue. Heck, there's even a robot named Sophia with AI so advanced that she was granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to deal with real-life Cybermen when the Cyberium takes over, so maybe we should slow down on the whole giving robots consciousness thing. Number 6. French fiasco. The French have been an ally to the Western world for the entirety of modern history, but in Treehouse of Horror 8, all of that is thrown out the window when Mayor Quimby makes an apparently offensive frog's legs joke and refuses to apologize, telling them to do their worst. Even Marge joins in on the jabs by saying, "You know how unpredictable the French are. One minute they're kissing a woman's hand, the next they're chopping chopping off her head. Well, the French president didn't take too kindly to this and starts a war by launching a neutron bomb that levels the town, leaving Homer as the last person alive in all of Springfield. And we all know that leaving Homer alone is a terrible idea. Now, it should be painfully obvious why France launching missiles aimed at the US would be something we don't want to happen, but that's not the only scary prediction from this episode. Number 5. Teleportation. In Fly vs. Fly, the second story in this episode, Homer buys a teleportation pod from Professor Frink for 50 cents. A damn good deal if you ask me, but maybe too good to be true, as the rest of the episode shows some of the terrors that could come with this tech. Instantly arriving somewhere else on the Earth after simply stepping into a pod has been a dream of many scientists for centuries, and the practical applications would change society as we know it. And there have been some crazy advancements, like the Chinese scientists who teleported particles to a satellite in space. But in the episode, we get a warning of the dangers that could lie ahead, with reference to the classic science fiction horror, The Fly. We see the loyal Simpson pets, Santa's Little Helper, and Snowball 2 becoming merged together Cronenberg style, and Bart gets the idea to turn into a superhero with the power of flight by merging with the Fly. Clearly he didn't see what happened to Jeff Goldblum, but life finds a way, and Bart and the Fly switch heads when their DNA is merged together, leading to the horror show of what the family has to deal with. I don't know about you, but I don't plan on mixing my DNA with any other creatures, so until that's sorted out, I'll stick with the TARDIS. Number 4. Colonization of Mars. Season 27, episode 16, has the Simpsons signing up to be some of the first colonizers of the Red Planet, albeit somewhat unwillingly. And eventually their trip turns out to be a scam perpetrated by the scientists, whose rocket fails to start, and when they try to flee the scene, their car can't start either. But at the end of the episode, we get a time jump to 2051 and see them actually living on Mars, though Lisa now wants to leave and move to Venus, which would be an absolutely horrible idea. Though the idea of Mars colonization is thrown around all the time these days, the thought that we may have to use it as a necessity when we finish destroying this planet is not a future I look forward to. But I mean, I'd probably go. Would you? Number 3. The dome. The main plot device in the Simpsons movie comes in the form of a giant dome encapsulating the entire town of Springfield after pollution has led to mutations in local wildlife, and not just the three-eyed fish near the nuclear plant. Stephen King actually released his novel turned TV series Under the Dome in 2009, 2 years after the Simpsons movie debut. Another prediction, perhaps? While the idea is incredibly silly, we have seen in the past few years that quarantine can become a reality for us, albeit without the impenetrable dome, but who knows, maybe in the future this could become a real thing to stop environmental disasters from getting out of hand, like catching a hurricane in a bottle or something. Ridiculous, I know, but let's just hope we never have to use it. Number 2. Time travel. People assume that time is a strict progression from cause to effect, but actually from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. And the Simpsons have dabbled with time travel many times over their 34 seasons, but in Treehouse of Horror 5, we get a glimpse of what is commonly known as the butterfly effect. I know Ashton Kutcher's ears just pricked up when I said that. Time travel could have insane implications on the human race, but there are multiple theories on how it would work. Maybe if you went to the past, you would create an entirely new timeline where things are different, or maybe nothing is able to be changed at all because time is constant and what has happened has always happened. But in the episode, we see that Homer's small changes in the past with his time-traveling toaster bring massive consequences forward, like Flanders ruling the world, people becoming giants, and even the world having no knowledge of donuts. So, if time travel becomes a reality, and maybe it already has in the future, we need to be careful not to mess with anything, or we risk losing everything. And finally, we reach our number 1, mini black hole. In Treehouse of Horror 23, the town of Springfield begrudgingly builds a particle reactor instead of a baseball stadium and creates a tiny black hole, which swallows up a few residents before Lisa can move it to her basement for safekeeping. After she warns the family to not throw anything into it, lest it grow bigger, they do exactly that, and it becomes massive and swallows everything in its path, taking the townsfolk to an alternate dimension where aliens worship the trash they disposed of in the hole. Black holes are scary enough on their own, let alone what would happen if one was to pop up on Earth, already surrounded by matter it could consume.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Bye Bye Son. Let's take it back to season 6, episode 25, to The Simpsons episode titled Who Shot Mr. Burns, Part 1. In this episode, Mr. Burns makes a crazy decision in order to have some more financial gain. I mean, surprise, surprise when it comes to the money-hungry mogul. The decision he makes, however, is to permanently block the sun from shining down on Springfield, and he does this so that people can't rely on solar power at all and instead need to rely on electricity from his power plant. Yes, it's a very greedy plan, plan, but some think this may be a prediction of things to come. There are, of course, space laws and treaties, but it's also kind of a difficult thing to manage, and it has people asking if, as space exploration and travel becomes more privatized and accessible, for lack of a better term, space will soon become like the wild, wild west. It doesn't necessarily have to be by way of blocking the sun. Of course, that is dramatic and would have a far greater negative impact on our world than any sort of positive financial gain, but it definitely is a thing that has people wondering, will someone soon try and use some sort of cosmic power to hold the world hostage for their own financial or political gain? Only time will tell. In our number 9 spot today we have contamination. The 2007 Simpsons movie is a classic, but there are people who believe it may contain a grim prediction for our near future. In the movie, the town of Springfield gets put into quarantine, I know that word still sends shivers down my back, after an environmental disaster which results in their own town being covered in a glass dome. What caused this disaster is that Homer dumped a silo of pig waste into the lake and it polluted the water. The water then became so toxic that the EPA was ready to blow the entire town up. This could perhaps be the foreshadow of a real world event to come. I mean, we are constantly dumping things in places that they really shouldn't be, and sometimes it's just because we don't have any better ideas. I mean, for example, Lake Karachay in Russia. While it was once just a regular old lake starting in 1951, the Soviet Union began using it as a dumping ground for radioactive waste from a nearby nuclear waste storage and reprocessing facility. The original intention was to only use the lake for storage purposes and one day to return the radioactive material to the plant, but this of course didn't work out even close to according to plan, considering the lake very quickly turned lethal. The lake is now one of the most contaminated, polluted, and dangerous places in the entire world, and the radioactivity in the lake is comparable to what it was once like in Chernobyl. Okay, that is just one example of how things can quite quickly go awry and turn deadly. In our number 8 spot today we have the asteroid. Would it really be a new year if there weren't predictions of an asteroid hurtling towards Earth, threatening life as we know it? Absolutely not. It's the prediction that comes up every year, and when we take a peek at season 6 episode 14 of The Simpsons titled Bart's Comet, we see the grim prediction come to life in the animation. In the episode, Bart discovers a comet that is heading straight towards Earth, threatening the lives of everyone there. The residents of Springfield quickly begin to panic after learning the news, which leads everyone to count down the days that they have left. At the end of the episode, which I almost said spoilers, but if you haven't seen it by now, are you ever going to watch it? The asteroid doesn't hit the Earth and instead ends up burning up into little pieces, and everyone can live another day in Springfield. Maybe this is meant to foreshadow how those asteroid deflection tests that were carried out earlier in 2022 might actually prove useful in the near future. In our number 7 spot today we have Big Ben. Because of all of our advancements in technology, the traditional ways of doing things tend to get thrown out for newer, easy to use gadgets. This has definitely made our lives a lot more efficient and simple, but is newer technology always the way to go? Big Ben appears a number of times throughout the Simpsons series, but it is always seen with a digital clock instead of the real world analog clock. Just recently, the Great Bell of the Great Clock at the Palace of Westminster returned to its original dinging schedule after being mostly silent for about 5 years while it underwent the most extensive renovations done since its initial build. While these renovations recently were completed, something that the Simpsons may be predicting a more modern future or modern approach. At this point, this is one prediction that is doubtful, but who knows, maybe analog clocks will one day be a mysterious part of past human history. In our number 6 spot today we have Mars colonization. In season 27, episode 16, titled The Margian Chronicles, Lisa hears about a new company called Exploration Incorporated who has a target to colonize Mars, which leads to Lisa signing up for the project. This 2016 episode has people drawing parallels between the company in the show and the real-world company led by Elon Musk, SpaceX, which also has the goal to possibly one day colonize Mars. In the episode, Marge isn't cool with Lisa signing up, which somehow leads to the entire family signing up for the project. Problem is, however, that the date of everything gets moved up from its projected 2026 date to the end of the week. This has people predicting that we may get to Mars sooner than SpaceX's current 2029 projections. Doubtful that it will be by the end of next week, but who knows? Space technology is rapidly advancing, so truly, your guess is as good as mine. In our number 5 spot today we have the next president. Many people believe that The Simpsons correctly were able to predict the presidency of Donald Trump, and they think that they might be back at it again, this time with his daughter. While 2023 doesn't hold any sort of presidential election, the following year does, which means that people will be starting their campaign trails sooner rather than later. The 2016 Treehouse of Horror episode featured Homer wearing an Ivanka Trump 2028 sticker, and this has people thinking thinking. It's not necessarily a completely unrealistic prediction, whether in this upcoming election or the one that follows. In our number 4 spot today, we have Mind Control Music. In season 12, episode 14, the show invited NSYNC as the guest spot and also possibly made a prediction for the future of music. Of course, predictive programming isn't a new idea, and people believe it's constantly happening around us, but this episode takes that idea and pushed it even further. In the 2001 episode, we see Bart in a new band with his friends. What they don't know is that their music is actually a psychological operation that is used to send children subliminal messages and control their minds. Like I mentioned, people believe this already to be the case, but the episode really makes you think. Will one day the government be using pop singers and bands to impart subliminal messages to youth all over the world? Hopefully not, but only time will tell. In our number 3 spot today, we have VR Food. Season 11, episode 17, titled Bart to the Future, is one that often comes up when people discuss Simpsons predictions, both for things that they think this episode has accurately predicted, as well as things that people think are impending upon us. For this particular prediction, I want to talk about the moment in the episode where we see Homer and Marge eating some sort of food through feeding tubes with VR goggles on. Yeah, VR food. Interesting idea, but in reality, is it really a good idea? I mean, we have to consider if we'd really be enjoying our food this way. Obviously we eat because we have to, but it's also a social activity. If we went to virtual reality food, it would be hard to enjoy a meal out with your friends and family, not to mention the chance of getting motion sick from wearing the goggles, personal experience. Despite my obvious aversion to it, some people think that this is the way of the future. VR is only becoming more and more available, and it is also only getting better. Maybe this is one upcoming technology that we should all start to look out for. In our number 2 spot today, we have the robot revolution. It's not a new concept or idea. For years, people have been scared of some sort of robot revolution where they turn on us and attack us. And listen, I mean, I've seen iRobot. It makes me nervous too. Some people have taken a moment in season 6, episode 4 of The Simpsons as a prediction of some of the horrors that are to come. In the episode, during a visit to Itchy and Scratchy Land, the robots that are meant to help the guests with their day out start to break down and begin trying to kill the guests. Definitely not the day out that the family thought that they had planned. Although this episode aired in 1994, people believe that this could one day be our future. What do you think? Will the robots and AIs one day turn on us? In our number 1 spot today, we have the economy crash. In the 9th episode of the 24th season, titled Homer Goes to Prep School, some believe that there is a grim prediction for what is to come as it relates to the economy. Basically, in this episode, Homer is at Moe's speaking about how he doesn't believe that society could stand a collapse. As Homer is speaking about this and voicing his opinions, another man overhears him and interjects with his opinion. This man agrees with Homer but adds that there soon will be an economic disaster and that the United States would fall. Homer disagrees with that last bit, and this is when the man pulls out a video to show Homer. Turns out that this man is very clearly trying to lure Homer into his cult as he shows him a video of the upcoming apocalypse that he believes is imminent and asks Homer to join his doomsday prep cult. Hopefully we're not all joining cults this new year, but unfortunately some people believe that with the new year will come an economic crash, and to be fair, outside of TV and The Simpsons, people everywhere are predicting that based on real life events as well, so it's not looking good. On a positive note, however, the episode ends off on a good note. Everyone ends up good, so maybe that's also a prediction for real life and what's to come? Let's hope. Alright? Love, death, accidents, and trials. This list has it all and so much more. Let's dive right into the top 10 Simpsons predictions for the royal family we can't ignore. Let us know down below what your favorite Simpsons episode is. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Prince Philip's passing. Last year in April of 2021, Prince Philip, the husband to Queen Elizabeth II, passed away, and it is said that The Simpsons might have predicted his death right down to the day. In season 7, episode 3, Home Sweet Home Diddly Dum Doodly, the Simpsons neighbors, the Flanders, temporarily take the children in after a lice outbreak. Apparently they're all driving in a car on the way to church, and baby Maggie suddenly just turns her head to Bart and Lisa and says, quote, Prince Philip will die on April 9th, 2021. Okay, it's probably the most on the nose prediction, and all I can say is, how? Apparently the line has since been replaced in recent versions, but it is said that this is actually what was said in the original broadcast, which happened in 1995, 26 years before his actual passing. It truly is one of those chilling Simpsons predictions moments. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Queen's passing. There are many viral TikToks that have been going around since the Queen's passing that suggest that the Simpsons actually predicted her death. The episode in question is season 15, episode 4, The Regina Monologues, which we will be talking about a few more times today. But to start off with, we have this recent rumor. The TikToks have been edited with certain footage in a way that suggests that this episode did in fact predict the Queen's death, but when we watch the entire episode, that is likely not the case at all. The episode doesn't show the way in which the Queen passed, and also, she doesn't even die in the episode. While this was a very clever trick to get a viral TikTok video, it looks like this is one time when we've all been bamboozled and the writers didn't quite predict our reality. In our number 8 spot today, we have the accident. Okay, so we just talked a little bit about the Regina Monologues episode, but that is not where the predictions end for this one. In the episode, the Simpson family rents a Mini Cooper and they start driving around London. Marge is shocked at how well everything is going on their first trip to England, but of course that can only last for so long. They get stuck on a roundabout, which is honestly a universal experience. I mean, they're so confusing when you're not used to them. Why do they even exist? And the family starts to drive in circles for hours. Homer finally decides that enough is enough and decides to break out of the roundabout. When he does this, however, he plows straight through the gates of Buckingham Palace and he slams into Queen Elizabeth II's horse-drawn carriage. Now, we know this didn't happen in real life, but this could be a prediction that something similar might happen in real life. Probably not as a result of a roundabout, but people try to do strange things when it comes to protected places. People try to sneak into Buckingham Palace all the time. It wouldn't necessarily be surprising to see something like this happen, but hopefully this is just a premise that will stay in the animated show where it truly does belong. In our number 7 spot today, we have standing trial. After this horse-drawn carriage accident, Homer has no idea who he just knocked down and he starts trying to sort of brush the whole thing off. Of course, this isn't accepted and immediately the Scots guardsmen start beating him to a pulp. After this, however, Homer is put on trial for causing harm to the Queen as well as for wrecking her carriage. On trial, Homer calls the Queen an imposter because her luggage has the inscription HRH. Of course, meant to mean Her Royal Highness, Homer suggests that this is actually short for Henrietta R. Hippo. Can totally see how he got there. Rather than believing this is a prediction that the Queen is really Henrietta Hippo, some people believe that this is just a grim prediction for a monarch's future. Of course, there are plenty of safety protocols put in place, but some are worried that this might mean that this episode might be predicting that we will see someone stand trial in the future for trying to harm the head of state. Whether or not you enjoy the royal family, it's safe to say that most people hope that they don't get harmed, either intentionally or otherwise, so hopefully this is one prediction that just does not come true. In our number 6 spot today, we have the sentencing. For the final prediction that comes with this whirlwind of an episode, after Homer accuses the Queen of being Henrietta R. Hippo, she is of course outraged and she sentences him to being imprisoned in the Tower of London, later to be executed by beheading, and to have his head placed on a spike. In the end, the Queen does pardon Homer, but some have suggested that this might be a prediction that we might see some old historical and horrifying royal practices come back in the future. We'll talk about a similar kind of prediction with another royal family member later in this list, but some people believe that these sort of gruesome forms of capital punishment might end up coming back. To end off this episode, the Queen only agrees to pardon Homer on the condition that the Simpson family take Madonna with them when they left. I don't think that part is any kind of real prediction, I just wanted to include it because it's pretty funny. In our number 5 spot today, we have royal spying. In an episode of The Simpsons, the now King Charles III, along with his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, can be seen watching over Springfield. They're doing this through surveillance cameras that have been planted all over the town. Some people have suggested that this perhaps is a prediction that could already be happening or might be something that our future holds. It's safe to say that the UK already does have its fair share of CCTV cameras, which for many reasons is great, but of course people worry about being spied on, which is entirely fair. I don't necessarily think that the royal family just sits around spying on everyone, but there is definitely potential that they, or people working from them, know more than anyone would like to know, making the royal family sound like the CIA, but who knows? The Simpsons have definitely predicted stranger things. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Tyrant. This is one prediction that the Simpsons made that, while hopefully unlikely, we'll definitely just have to wait and see to find out. In The Simpsons, while Prince Harry doesn't make a lot of appearances, they do include him in the show of course, and they have quite a grim prediction for his future self. They suggest that perhaps in the future Prince Harry has risen to power. It's not so bad. Prince Harry is certainly one of the more likable members of the royal family. I know for some of you that's a hot take, but regardless, although Harry is not in line for the throne and has almost mostly renounced his royalty, he is still part of the family, and again, stranger things have happened. Once in power, however, things go awry and Harry proves to be an entirely different person than anyone would have expected. In The Simpsons, once in power, Harry becomes a ruthless tyrant who is so bad that he reinstates capital punishment, but this time he's taking a tip from his ancestors. It's not just regular modern-day capital punishment that we see now, it is, of course, in royal family fashion, done in the form of beheadings. In our number 3 spot today, we have Out of Control. This is another Simpsons prediction that, depending on how you look at it, could be one that you could say did come true. When the Simpsons family went to England, most of the newspapers in the episode showed that they were reporting on the trial of Homer for harming the Queen. Of course, that's like one of the central focuses of the episode, so it makes a lot of sense, but there is one paper that has a different headline. In the episode, it's actually the Daily Mail, and they have the headline, quote, "Bart and Prince Harry out of control," and it shows a picture of the two outside of a bar. Now, I'm not saying that Prince Harry went on a pub crawl and got messy with Bart Simpson, but there are people who didn't enjoy how Prince Harry has chosen to live his life. We all have haters, no worries Prince Harry, but many people would suggest that his behavior is, quote, out of control. I personally disagree, but I know not everyone does. It's safe to say that Prince Harry likely won't be seen outside of any bar on a newspaper cover anytime soon, but who am I to say for sure? In our number 2 spot today, we have King Henry VIII. Less of a prediction for the future, considering this episode was strictly about historical figures. Season 15, episode 11, Margical History Tour, takes us back in time and shows us a Simpsons version of the life of King Henry VIII. Known for being quite a terrible person and an absolutely horrible husband, the episode, while of course taking quite a few liberties, really is surprisingly accurate for a comedy animation show. The king was married 6 times, and in the episode he beheads quite a few of his wives. In reality it was only 2, but still 2 is more than enough for us in the future to add a couple extra in for dramatic effect. While this episode is just a fun premise for a silly episode, some worry that this might be a prediction for how the royal family might fall back into some old practices. Queen Elizabeth II was incredibly loved by those who support the monarchy, and it's safe to say that her successor does not have the same kind of adoration. This makes people worried that things might end up in a more grim place than how the Queen left them. In our number 1 spot today, we have Prince Christian. A departure from the British royal family, this young prince made a debut in the animated show. Prince Christian of Denmark, who is now 16, is 12 years old in the episode. The Simpsons family travels to Denmark for a medical treatment for Grandpa, and it is here that Lisa meets the man of her dreams, the skateboarding prince. The episode skips to the future and it shows Lisa and the prince getting married and waving from their balcony. Of course, no one thinks that this very real prince is going to marry the very fictional Lisa Simpson, but some believe that perhaps this might be a prediction for the future of the prince's love life. Normally, royal marriages are strategic, but it's possible, similar to Prince Harry, that Prince Christian might just meet his future love in a more non-traditional fashion. The prince is obviously still quite young, so only time will tell with this one.
Starting us off this countdown, we have the Shard. The Shard is a 72-story skyscraper that was built in 2009 and completed in 2012. But somehow the Simpsons knew that this structure was going to be built in London 14 years before it actually was. So in the 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding, Lisa visits a psychic that shows her what her future is like. We also get to see what London looks like in the future. As a joke, the Simpsons showed the Big Ben clock as being digital. Now obviously, that hasn't come true yet. Now the freaky point is at one point we see this building in the background and it appears to be the Shard. Not only is the structure the same shape as the Shard, but it's in the same location in comparison to Big Ben. Yeah, so somehow they just knew that 14 years later a building was going to be made in that exact location. Super weird. In our 9th spot we have Prince's death. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and also check out part 1 to the series as well. Prince was an iconic American singer-songwriter. Sadly, he passed away in April of 2016. Now, some believe that he was actually murdered because he was talking freely about chemtrails. Prince believed that the government was deploying planes to spray chemicals in the sky, which was then poisoning the population. Well, Prince actually starred in a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror segment. In this episode, Prince gets killed by Homer. We see Homer choking and beating him. A lot of people then believe that the Simpsons predicted his death. If in the future it's somehow revealed that Prince was murdered, then this prediction will get even freakier. In our 8th spot, we have President Trump. This is probably one of the freakiest predictions that has come true, because who in a million years would have thought that Trump would not only run, but also successfully become president of the United States. So back in 2000, The Simpsons aired an episode titled Bart to the Future. In this episode, Bart gets a glimpse into the future and sees what's in store for himself and his family. Well, in this episode, Lisa is president. During a cabinet meeting, she says, and I quote, "We inherited quite the budget crunch from President Trump." Yeah, so the president before her was Donald Trump. Super creepy. Now, a bunch of writers were asked how they managed to predict this in 2000, and they said that they were just looking for a celebrity that would be funny and shocking as president. So maybe it's just a coincidence, but still, that's so freaky. Moving on to number 7, we have the rigged voting machines. In a 2008 episode, Homer heads to a voting booth to cast his vote. After voting for Democratic candidate Barack Obama, the machine selects Republican John McCain. Homer then sighs and says, "No, I want to vote for Obama," and keeps trying to tap his name. But the machine keeps glitching, and every time he clicks Obama's name, the vote goes to McCain. Well, during the 2012 elections, the exact same thing pretty much happened. There were voting machines which saw people voting for Obama have their votes count towards Mitt Romney instead. There was even video footage of it happening. And to no surprise, people blame The Simpsons for this one. Seriously, how did The Simpsons know that this would happen? Not only did they accurately predict faulty voting machines, but they also predicted that it would happen to Obama. In our 6th spot, we have the Nobel Prize winner. In the season 22 premiere, we see Lisa and her friends with a prediction sheet they made for the Nobel Prize announcements. This episode aired in 2010, and Milhouse predicted that Bent Holstrom would win the Nobel Prize in economics. And what do you know? In 2016, 6 years later, Holstrom won a Nobel Prize in economics, just like The Simpsons said he would. I mean, it really could just be that they did their research and looked up the trends to see who was most likely to win this award, but still, The Simpsons got it going on. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with virtual reality. Back in a 1998 episode, The Simpsons have a scene where a bunch of kids are playing a yard work simulator. Pretty weird, right? The kids are holding garden tools while wearing a headset that looks a lot like a VR headset, literally playing a game about VR yard work. But that's not all. Another example would be the episode titled Lisa's Wedding, which aired in 1995. In this episode, we see Bart at Moe's Tavern playing virtual pool, and then another character playing virtual darts. And then in season 11, episode 17 that aired in 2000, we see Homer and Marge with the same headset having virtual reality food. Now, there are around 8 different episodes where The Simpsons show virtual reality before it even became a big thing like it is today. Moving on to number 4, we have the Beatles. In 1963, 2 Beatles fans recorded a message and sent the tape to the London theater where the band was playing in hopes to get a reply. 50 years later, the 2 heard back from Paul McCartney. He wrote and thanked them for their tape and said, "Better late than never." And somehow, The Simpsons predicted that something very similar would happen. In season 2, episode 18, titled Brush with Greatness, we see Ringo Starr from the Beatles responding to really old fan mail. He said, and I quote, "They took the time to write me, and I don't care if it takes me another 20 years. I'm going to answer every one of them." Although it's not the same Beatles member, it's still a pretty creepy coincidence. Coming in at number 3, we have the election outcome. Back in 2012, it said that The Simpsons managed to predict the exact outcome of the 2020 election results. Again, this one is fairly creepy. So the prediction takes place in a Fox special called Mr. Burns Endorses Romney, and it was for the 2012 presidential election. It's only a minute and about 50 seconds long, but in it we see Mr. Burns in front of a map, showing the red and blue states for the election. Now what's freaky is that they look very similar to the 2020 Biden and Trump electoral map. I mean, at first glance, it looks identical, meaning The Simpsons somehow predicted the outcome of every state. Now, upon closer inspection, they did get one wrong, which was Arizona. Still, how do they manage to pretty much get the exact election results? Keep in mind, the episode is 8 years old. In our second spot, we have the victory. Back in 2008, Simpsons released an episode titled Boy Meets Curl. It was the 12th episode in season 21. Now, in this episode, Marge and Homer both fall in love with curling. It results in them qualifying to compete in mixed doubles curling at the 2010 Winter Olympics. At the end of the episode, Marge leads their team to victory, beating Sweden. Well, in 2018, the US men's curling team beat Sweden and won the gold at the Olympics. So The Simpsons predicted that not only would USA win its first gold medal in curling, but that it would beat Sweden when doing so. Coincidence? I think not. Seriously, how did they do it? And in our number one spot, we have the FIFA scandal. In season 25's 16th episode titled You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee, Homer becomes a referee in the World Cup because there was a shortage of referees. A lot of them were laid off because they were being bribed. In the episode when Homer is the referee, a woman approaches him and tries to bribe him to fix the game in their favor. Either way, he ends up calling the game fairly and Germany wins the World Cup. Then guess what? A year later, a number of FIFA officials were arrested for taking bribes. Crazy. But not only that, the same year, Germany did end up winning. So, The Simpsons got 2 predictions right in one episode. Starting off this countdown, we have the Higgs boson particle. In season 10, episode 2 of The Simpsons, Homer becomes inspired by the work of Thomas Edison. As a result, he tries to become an inventor. In one scene, we see Homer scribbling on a chalkboard. At the bottom, it reveals a math equation, which wasn't thought to be anything big, just Homer doing some scribbles. Until more than a decade later, when scientists discovered the Higgs boson particle, otherwise known as the God particle. People then realized Homer's work was a lot like this particle. Like, what kind of sorcery is this? Do they got a team of scientists working for them or something? Seriously, the writers either must be super smart or they have psychic powers. Or both. And at number 9, we have the grease scheme. And if you guys like this video and you want to see more videos from us, then make sure to give this video a big thumbs up because it really helps us out. So in the 1998 episode titled Lord of the Dance, which is from season 10 episode 1, Homer comes up with an idea to steal grease from a bunch of places, like his kid's school cafeteria, and then he sells it to make a quick buck. Well, guess what? People started doing this in real life. In New York, people were going around stealing grease from restaurants. It was so bad that apparently $75 million worth of grease gets stolen each year. Restaurants had to start hiring people to safely remove their grease so that people wouldn't break in and steal it. Sounds absolutely crazy, right? Well, somehow, The Simpsons knew that this was going to happen. Or maybe people were influenced by Homer in that episode. Either way, it's pretty creepy. In our 8th spot, we have the outbreak. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty creeped out when I found out that The Simpsons might have predicted COVID-19. Seriously, it's really creepy. So in the 1993 episode titled Marge in Chains, a mysterious virus from Asia plagues the town of Springfield. In the episode, a sick factory worker coughs into a bunch of boxes that they were shipping out to Springfield. As a result, tons of Springfield residents get sick with this flu. The flu spreads quickly throughout the town and soon a number of residents become ill. On top of that, the doctor says the best way to combat the flu is to stay at home. Okay, that's pretty creepy. Seems an awful lot like what's going on currently. So in 1993, The Simpsons predicted this current outbreak. Not only that, but in the same episode, they had these killer bees. A bunch of townsfolk knock over a crate labeled killer bees when looking for the cure. Well, a couple months ago, we had the scare of murder hornets. So tell me how The Simpsons managed to get 2 predictions right in one episode. Like the same episode. They knew that murder hornets were gonna be a thing at the same time there was an outbreak. It's crazy. Moving on to number 7, we have the tiger attack. In 2003, Roy Horn from the duo Siegfried and Roy was attacked on stage by their white tiger. Thankfully, he survived the attack. But it seems like The Simpsons predicted this 10 years before it even happened. So let's take a look at the 1993 episode titled Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling. What a title. In this episode, we see two magicians named Gunter and Ernst. They worked in a casino and had a magic show where they displayed white tigers. Sound familiar? Well, in this episode, while performing a show, the tiger lashes out and attacks both the handlers in front of a crowded audience. So you're telling me that The Simpsons made an episode that's a parody of Siegfried and Roy, and then years later the exact thing happens to them? Yeah, that's some weird voodoo stuff going on there. I don't like that. And at number 6 we have the three-eyed fish. So in The Simpsons, the three-eyed fish is known as Blinky. It's a mutated fish that gets discovered after Bart fishes it up near the Springfield power plant. This happened in season 2 episode 4, which aired back in 1990. Fast forward to 2011 and there are headlines about an Argentinian man who caught a three-eyed fish while out on a fishing trip with some friends. Turns out that the fish was caught in a reservoir where a power plant pumps hot water from their facility, and clearly the water gets polluted. The fishermen said that it was dark at the time and they didn't really notice the fish, but then when they looked at him with the flashlight, they saw his third eye. How convenient. A three-eyed fish. Just like in The Simpsons. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with 9/11. There are a bunch of cartoon shows that have been thought to have predicted the tragedy that occurred on September 11th, 2001. One of them being Johnny Bravo. The other one, of course, being The Simpsons. In a 1997 episode titled New York City Against Homer, we see Lisa hold up a magazine. The camera punches in on it and it reads New York, $9 a day. Behind the $9, it appears to be the Twin Towers. The way that everything is formatted, it looks like it says 9/11. At this point, I don't even know what to believe. Moving on, number 4, we have Capitol Hill. Of course, you all know by now that on January 6th of this year, an angry mob of President Trump supporters stormed Capitol Hill. Well, turns out that The Simpsons may have warned us that this would happen. For this, let's take a look at the 1996 episode titled The Day the Violence Died. This episode was meant to be a parody of the 1976 Schoolhouse Rock segment, I'm Just a Bill. The Simpsons version was I'm an amendment to be. In the episode when the amendment is ratified, the character says, "Doors open, boys," and then a bunch of amendment or bill looking characters start storming up the steps of the Capitol Hill building. Some have then linked this scene to what happened at Capitol Hill on January 6th. So I don't get how they do it, but they do. Like, what magical powers do they have? Do they have a crystal ball or something? Let me know. Coming in at number 3, we have advanced technology. So somehow The Simpsons knew how technology was going to be like for us in the future. A lot of these predictions were made in the 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding. In this episode, Lisa visits a psychic that shows her what her future is like. And in one scene, we see Lisa's husband Hugh talking to a watch, which then literally turns into a phone. Sound familiar? Watch that you can use as a phone? Yeah, an Apple Watch. In this episode, they also predicted FaceTime, since there's a scene where we see Lisa talking to her family on what looks like a FaceTime call or a video chat or whatever, I don't know. Again, this was done back in 1995, and the Apple Watch came out in around 2014. So The Simpsons are just always ahead of the game. Coming in at number 2, we have the NSA spying scandal. In 2013, a former contractor for the CIA, Edward Snowden, revealed that the US National Security Agency, the NSA, was collecting phone records of millions of Americans. Dun, dun, dun. So they were spying on us. Well, not me, I'm Canadian. But they were spying on people through their phone calls, and they probably still are. But anyways, in the 2007 Simpsons movie, they literally predicted that this would happen. So in the movie, the Simpsons family flee Springfield and are hiding from the EPA. Well, in one scene, Marge warns her family to be careful because people could be listening in on their conversations. Then it cuts to a room filled with NSA agents listening in on a bunch of people's calls. It's like they knew from the beginning we were being spied on by the government. I mean, we all had our suspicions, but the Simpsons actually said it out loud, and they were correct. I'm starting to think that they have insider info. And in our number 1 spot, we have the horse meat scandal. Okay, all of the predictions so far are pretty creepy, but this one goes beyond that. So in 2013, the horse meat scandal was a huge food industry scandal in which foods declared as 100% beef were found to have horse meat mixed in with it, along with some other animals. Countries such as France, Iceland, England, Russia, Ireland, and Sweden were affected by this scandal. And as gross as it is, The Simpsons predicted it. So this was predicted in an episode back in 1994 in which lunch lady Doris is feeding kids mystery meat. More specifically, in season 5, episode 19, Doris serves the kids from a large container, reading assorted horse meat. And guess what? Kids' lunches were affected by this horse meat scandal. So, what are the odds? Like, honestly, Simpsons, you can tell me that it was meant to be a joke, but I don't know. This one is pretty weird. I honestly think that that was a warning for us. Starting off this countdown, we have the trucker convoy. Recently, here in Canada, truckers are protesting around Parliament Hill against COVID-19 mandates. A convoy of big rigs are in Ottawa, blocking off streets and access to the Parliament. And it seems like The Simpsons might have predicted this. In season 10's episode 17, Homer and Bart go on a cross-country journey as truck drivers. While doing so, they encounter truck convoys. And then, the trucks attempt to run them off the road before blocking the road completely. In fact, when Homer first spots the trucks, he says to Bart, "Look, son, it's one of nature's most beautiful sights, the convoy." This episode aired in 1999. Now, what's actually funny is someone edited a clip from another Simpsons episode with this one. The episode was from Doe, Canada. In the clip, we see Trudeau escaping his office while the convoy heads towards him. Now that part is fake, like I said, they edited 2 clips together, it's hilarious, but still, many people think that The Simpsons predicted this whole trucker protest situation. In our 9th spot, we have the large-scale environmental disaster. Scientists have been concerned for a while now about the state of our Earth. Due to climate change and global warming, we are going to be experiencing more drastic, severe, and unpredictable weather, like floods, droughts, hurricanes, and wildfires, etc. We're at a point of no return, and in a couple of years, Earth might be completely destroyed. The Simpsons movie talks about a massive environmental disaster that basically leads to the destruction of Springfield, or almost destruction of Springfield. The disaster is caused by Homer dumping a silo of pig feces into an already polluted Springfield lake. And as we all know, pollution is a huge problem worldwide. It's causing our air to become toxic and unbreathable in some places. In other places, it's polluting water supply and soil and contaminating crops. So The Simpsons might have been onto something with that movie. In our 8th spot, we have the colonization of Mars. This year might have been the year in which we colonize Mars. In season 27, episode 16, titled Margian Chronicles, Lisa signs up to be part of a mission to colonize Mars. As a result, she ends up on Mars with Marge. In the Simpsons episode, I believe it takes place in the year 2026, but Elon and his team at SpaceX have been trying to develop cargo ships leaving for Mars in 2022. So it certainly will be the start of the colonization of Mars. In fact, by 2050, he wants to send 1 million people to Mars. How wild is that? Would you sign up to go to Mars though? Let me know in the comments below. I personally would not, okay? I like it here. Moving on to number 7, we have the Bigfoot. Do you believe in the Bigfoot? I mean, over the years, a number of people have claimed to have encounters with it. So maybe it is real. But most of the population thinks it's all just a hoax. According to The Simpsons though, this year we might find out more information on this furry beast. So there's 2 episodes I'm going to refer to here. In one episode, Homer is on a camping trip and ends up looking like Bigfoot after falling into some mud. He's then captured by scientists for observation. They think they finally found this mysterious beast. Then in an episode from 2002 titled The Bart Wants What It Wants, Bart encounters Bigfoot while exiting a bus in Canada. Why does The Simpsons keep hinting at the Bigfoot? Do they know something that we don't know? In our 6th spot, we have the NFTs. NFTs are all the rage lately, and I'm not gonna lie, I still don't completely understand them. All I know is that people are buying these images of apes wearing different outfits, and they're called the Bored Apes. Surely you all have seen it by now and know what I'm talking about. Well, take a look at this image of Lisa Simpson and tell me that it doesn't look like it could be part of someone's collection of NFTs. This image alone has people thinking that The Simpsons predicted the rise of NFTs. But let me know your thoughts. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cryptocurrency. Alongside NFTs, the other thing on the rise is crypto, and another thing that I once again know nothing about. But in an episode from 1997, The Simpsons made a reference to it. So this is from season 8, and the episode is titled My Sister, My Sitter. In the episode, there's a scene where we see Homer and Marge on a date outside. In the background, we see a crypto barn. It's literally called Crypto Barn, with the slogan, "A place for codes." Coincidence? Maybe, but why did they have that in the episode? And it's a place where you can buy codes. It's a little weird. The Simpsons video game Tapped Out also mentions this place. In fact, this property is the most expensive place in the game, with a price tag of $81,000 US. I don't know, the whole thing is just so wild to me. Moving on to number 4, we have mind control music. Now there's a reason why us humans feel so connected to music. Certain sounds have the ability to comfort us, irritate us, make us happy, make us sad. And it might just be that they will eventually control us completely. First off, let's take a look at an episode from 2001 called New Kids on the Blech, or Blech, I don't know how to pronounce it, BLECCH. In the episode, we see Bart in a new band with his friends, but the band was using a secret mind control device for the Navy. So their music is actually a psychological operation that is used to send children subliminal messages and control their mind. So people believe that in the future, songs will be used to control us. Some people believe it's already begun. Like back in the day, there was that whole case of 2 people shooting themselves after listening to the song Better by You, Better Than Me. One of the men survived, revealed that while listening to the song, they heard what sounded like "Let's be dead," and then it just kept chanting do it over and over again. So it persuaded them into taking their own lives. So there might possibly be a rise in hidden messages in songs in an attempt to control us. Moving on to number 3, we have World. Now, I really hope this prediction doesn't come true this year or at all. But according to The Simpsons, it might. In the 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding, we dive 15 years into the future. From there, we see what life is like in the future. Now, in the episode, we see Homer and Lisa's fiance, Hugh, drinking at Moe's bar. During the scene, a very weird exchange goes on between Moe and Hugh, suggesting that there was a third world. And with the whole Ukraine-Russia situation going on right now, this prediction has me spooked. Moving on to number 2, we have robots turning against humans, aka the robot takeover. There are so many movies out there that have showed us what happens when we give robots too much autonomy. But still, scientists are determined to make super powerful, smart, and independent robots, which is definitely not smart at all. Soon robots are going to become way smarter. In fact, most of them already are, but then they can just be like, hey, I don't want to be under your control anymore, and then they can just start attacking us. Anyways, The Simpsons predicted that a robot takeover will happen. In fact, they hinted at this multiple times in different episodes. One of them being the episode titled Itchy and Scratchy Land, which was episode 4 in season 6. In this episode, large animatronic robots go haywire and cause mass destruction. They basically turn into killing machines, threatening the Simpsons' lives. Then there's this episode titled Them Robots, which is the 17th episode of season 23. And in this episode, Mr. Burns replaces all of the power plant workers with robots. But then this goes terribly wrong and the robots start to turn on the community. So The Simpsons not only predicted that robots will take over our jobs, but also that they'll turn against us and try to wipe out the human race. How fun. Let's just hope that this prediction doesn't come true this year or at all. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the metaverse. The metaverse is defined as a simulated environment that uses augmented reality, virtual reality, and blockchain. In this world, it mimics the real world, and in it you can interact, socialize, work, game, and experience other things that you would normally do in the real world. And guess who predicted this in an episode from over a decade ago? The Simpsons. In the episode, we see the characters attach a cord to themselves and then disappear into a different reality. In this other reality, they have features like a place that you can go gamble and a virtual friends list where you can add or reject people, kind of like Facebook, adding or rejecting friend requests. It's eerily similar as to what Mark Zuckerberg has planned, but The Simpsons came up with it first, so Marky Mark is a little thief. Just kidding.
Alright, starting off our countdown with number 10, The Big Ben Clock. Now, the 1995 Simpsons episode titled Lisa's Wedding was filled with tons of predictions. Some came true, like virtual reality games, but others were not as accurate. So in this episode, Lisa visits a psychic that shows her future in 2010. Part of the episode takes place in England, and you can see the famous London clock, Big Ben. However, the clock's face has changed and reads the time digitally. This clock appears in another episode named Holidays of Future Past, when it once again reads the time digitally. It is now 2020 and the clock's face is not digital, and there is no news on it ever turning digital. So sorry, Simpsons, but you were wrong with that one. For number 9, we have the Super Bowl prediction. The Super Bowl was not too long ago, and some Simpsons fans were waiting eagerly to see if their prediction about the winners would come true. Now, this episode aired in 1999, and the name was Sunday Cruddy Sunday. In this episode, Homer and his buds go to Miami to watch the Super Bowl. Yes, the Super Bowl took place in Miami this year, so they did get that right. And people also thought that the teams playing looked an awful lot like the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, in this episode, it wasn't said that these were the actual teams, they were just speculating based on the team's jerseys. In this episode, they said that the 49ers won the game. Well, as we all know, that wasn't the case. The Kansas City Chiefs won the game 31-20, totally proving the Simpsons wrong. Making our way down the list for number 8, we have Jim Carrey. I'm a fan of Jim Carrey. He's Canadian, and he's played some hilarious characters over the years. Nowadays, he isn't getting the credit that he deserves as an actor, which is partially why the prediction didn't come true. In the same episode, Lisa's Wedding, patrons can be seen leaving a theater with a sign that reads 40 classic films starring Jim Carrey. Now, back in 1995, when this episode aired, Jim Carrey was a popular actor, which is why they probably assumed that he would manage to have 40 classic films. But now people argue that he doesn't have 40 classic movies out. Maybe some good ones, but not classics. They believe that now he's just known for his cheesy, goofy characters and they can't take him seriously. So people believe that this prediction is far from the truth, which is sad because Jim Carrey is very talented. For number 7, we have the News Channel. Again, this episode was Lisa's wedding. Geez, the Simpsons writers clearly imagined 2010 way different from how it actually was. Now, in this episode, there is a scene where the local news host, Kent Brockman, is reporting on a channel known as CNN BCBS, a division of ABC. Now, this clearly is a joke directed at all the multiple news channels that we have out there. Well, still, they predicted that they would all merge together and form one super channel. Now, that hasn't actually happened. If anything, each station is now just covering the same story, just at different times. Maybe they'll eventually team up and work together, but for now, it doesn't look like they're headed that way anytime soon. Making our way down the list, we have floating cars at number 6. Now, throughout the Simpsons series, they constantly depict the future as having floating cars and bikes, even thought that we would be replaced with robots. Again, this has not happened yet. But they thought that this would happen by 2010, and there definitely was not any huge future advancements like flying cars or other hover vehicles in 2010. Throughout the series, they show different forms of illustration of how they thought that the transportation in the future would be. For now, they're wrong, but let's see how far into the future we'll go before we have flying cars. We are now at our halfway mark with 3D printed food. Wouldn't that be awesome to just be able to like summon food whenever you want? Like being able to satisfy your craving instantly? That would be nice. Well, in the 2005 episode titled Future Drama, The Simpsons predicted that we would be able to 3D print our food. Now I know people are already trying to make this a thing, but we still can't make food just magically appear out of a photo, just like how Marge does in this episode. Honestly, the only 3D printed food I'll eat is when people get those cheesy pictures printed on top of a cake. Even then, it doesn't taste that good and I just like peel off the photo, but cake's good. Next on our list, we have the baby translators. In this episode titled Brother Can You Spare 2 Dimes, we see Homer's brother, who was actually voiced by Danny DeVito, little fun fact. Anyways, in this episode, Homer's brother invents a device called the baby translator. Apparently, this device was a way to turn a baby's babble into actual words so parents could communicate with them. Well, clearly, this is not a device that we have presently. We do have an app that was created in 2013 that is supposed to interpret a baby's cry, but it's nowhere close to this device. Making our way to number
number 3, we have Fox News. Once again, the episode of Lisa's wedding makes another appearance, this time poking fun at Fox News. In this episode, the older version of Marge and Homer Simpson are laying in bed watching the news in 2010. Marge then exclaims, "You know, Fox turned into a sex channel so gradually I didn't even notice." Well, that clearly isn't the case for Fox News, and it still only delivers trending news topics and definitely not content of the sexual manner. Again, who knows if that's the content Fox will slowly start to delve into, but for now, this prediction is not true. And at number 2, we have the death of a president's wife. In season 14, episode 21 of The Simpsons, titled Bart of War, an interesting headline can be seen across the newspaper in one of the scenes. The newspaper's headline reads, "A president his wife." Now, up to this point, no president has his wife. In fact, this episode came out in 2003 and the president at the time was George W. Bush. Now, his wife, Laura Bush, is still alive and healthy, so this headline has not come true, thankfully, and let's hope that it never comes true. And lastly, in our number 1 spot, we have a warning about celebrities. Now, in this episode of The Simpsons, news reporter Kent Brockman states that certain celebrities are declared dangerous. If you see them, then you should not encounter them. Then a list of these celebrities' names are shown on the screen. Some, such as Dracula, are a clear joke, but then there are celebrities listed such as Brad Pitt, Tim Allen, and the Baldwins. To this day, these celebrities aren't thought of as dangerous, so I don't know what The Simpsons was thinking with that one. It was probably just intended to be a joke, or maybe they truly thought these celebrities would end up doing something that would cause harm to others. Let me know what you think about that down below. Starting off this countdown, we have Trump's presidency. I swear, this is the prediction that started it all. Back in 2000s, The Simpsons aired an episode titled Bart to the Future. Basically, in this episode, Bart gets a glimpse into what the future is gonna be like. In the episode, we see that Lisa Simpson is the president and is attempting to rebuild the economy after President Trump has left the office. In the episode, during a cabinet meeting, we see Lisa in the Oval Office as she talks about the aftermath of President Trump's reign. She actually uses the words President Trump. And then fast forward a couple of years later, Trump indeed became president. Now this shocked a lot of people because how did they predict his presidency 16 years before it actually happened? Like, that's just too freaky. Coming in at number 9, we have the economic prediction. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up because you know what, it really helps us out. In the same episode and the same scene I was just talking about, we see what happens after Trump leaves office. While in the show, Lisa ends up being his successor, which obviously is not gonna happen in real life because she's not real. We do see something that Lisa has to deal with that might be similar to what Joe Biden will have to deal with. In the episode, after being voted the next president, Lisa mentions how she will be taking office in a time where the economy is really struggling. And you know what? The pandemic has had an unprecedented effect on not just the American economy, but has truly impacted our global economy as well. It's kind of crazy how they not only predicted the fact that President Trump would win the election, but also just more detail about him leaving office. I honestly would love to take a peek at the crystal ball that the writers seem to have. Coming in at number 8, we have the election results. Back in 2012, it said that The Simpsons managed to predict the exact outcome of the 2020 election results. This one is fairly creepy. So the prediction takes place in a Fox special called Mr. Burns Endorses Romney, and it was for the 2012 presidential election. It's only a minute and 50 seconds long, but in it we see Mr. Burns in front of a map, showing the red and blue states for the election. What's freaky is that they look very similar to the 2020 Biden and Trump electoral map. I mean, at first glance, it looks identical, meaning The Simpsons somehow predicted the outcome of each and every state. Upon closer inspection, they did get one thing wrong, which was Arizona. The show had it as a red state, but in reality it was blue. Still, how did they manage to pretty much get the exact election results? Keep in mind, the episode is 8 years old. Coming in at number 7, we have Trump's death. This image of an animated President Trump in a coffin has circulated the internet many times, especially in the last 4 years. In 2020, the image gained much more popularity after President Trump, as well as his wife, were tested positive for the coronavirus. Then people began to speculate that The Simpsons predicted President Trump passing away. Last year, there was a TikTok that went viral telling people that on the 27th of August, something big was gonna happen. More and more people began to run with this trend, and soon everyone was talking about what was going to happen on the 27th of August. And it ended up getting linked to this image from The Simpsons. People were saying that the episode had predicted his death and that it would occur on that date. Well, obviously that didn't happen, as it turns out the picture was actually fake. While most people assumed it was a still taken from an episode, this actually never happened once throughout the series. But who knows? Maybe in the future The Simpsons will come out with an episode that will have that. Who knows? And at number 6 we have the Civil War. With the events that took place on January 6th at Capitol Hill, the hashtag Civil War is trending on Twitter. A lot of people are scared that a war will break out once Joe Biden takes Trump's spot at president. Let's hope that's not the case. But people quickly turn to The Simpsons to see how this might pan out. You know, because they're psychic. In particular, let's look at the Treehouse of Horror Halloween special. In this special, which aired on November 1st, 2020, it starts with Homer having to vote for either Putin or Trump in the election. Fast forward, the episode cuts to a scene that says January 20th, 2021, Inauguration Day. And it's basically the apocalypse. Homer is on his roof wearing pots and pans as armor. Typical Homer. While his town is destroyed and on fire. Obviously, inauguration hasn't happened yet, but people are fearful that when it does, a civil war will happen, and that this Simpsons prediction will come true. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the statue stealing. Now there are 2 instances of statue stealing that I want to talk about that may have foreshadowed that photo that I'm sure you guys have all seen of one of the rioters carrying the podium around after he stormed Capitol Hill. The first time is in an episode called The Telltale Head, where we see Bart steal the head of the Jebediah Springfield statue. The second instance is from season 11 episode 12 called The Mansion Family. In this episode, as the family is leaving an award show after Homer didn't win an award, we see him attempting to drag a much larger version of the award statue out of the venue with him. He exclaims to the family, "What a great night it was for everyone," before Marge quickly lets him know that the statue is not an award, but actually is set decoration. While this isn't an exact prediction of the events that we saw at Capitol Hill, that guy carrying the podium probably could have just used some of Marge's advice. And when you compare the images side by side, it does look a little freaky. In our 4th spot, we have Ivanka 2028. In the season 28 Halloween episode of The Simpsons, right at the beginning, we see the family dressed up in costumes as they are trick-or-treating. Homer is dressed as Bender from Futurama, which is a hilarious crossover joke, but that's not why we're here. At one point, Homer opens up the front part of his costume to reveal that he's wearing an Ivanka 2028 pin. Now, it's only 2021, so we don't know if she's gonna run in 2028. Who knows, okay? It's The Simpsons. It could happen. Moving on to number 3, we have the rioter. On January 6th of 2021, an angry mob of President Trump's supporters stormed Capitol Hill. As you've probably heard, there were thousands of rioters that showed up to cause violence, and you get the gist. They began smashing windows and vandalizing the building, and the rioters ended up getting into the Senate chamber, where prior the election results were being certified. Many were seen waving Trump 2020 flags or wearing Keep America Great memorabilia. After this happened, an image started circulating on Twitter of what happens to be groundskeeper Willie, wearing an outrageous outfit with tattoos and face paint on his body. In fact, it was the same outfit that a rioter named Jake Angeli was wearing as he stormed Capitol Hill. Both Willie and Jake were seen wearing a fur hat with horns sticking out. They had face paint on their face in the colors of the American flag, and they have the same tattoos. This freaked everyone out. Like, how could The Simpsons predict this down to every last detail? Now, it turns out that this prediction is false. It had been photoshopped on purpose to look like the rioter. But The Simpsons may have still predicted the riots. Which takes me to my next point. And at number 2, we have the riots. So let's continue on with the recent riot that happened at Capitol Hill. What's creepy is the fact that The Simpsons might have predicted this in a number of different episodes. One of the times was during an episode titled Beyond Blunderdome, which was released in 1999. This episode features Mel Gibson and is meant to be a parody of the film Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. In this episode, Mel's character starts shooting at congressmen and causes hell on the Senate floor. It ends with him blowing up the building. Thankfully, that did not happen, but people think that this episode foreshadows what is yet to come. And in our number 1 spot, we have the storming of Capitol Hill. Again, another very scary prediction about Capitol Hill. For this, let's take a look at the 1996 episode titled The Day the Violence Died. This episode was meant to be a parody of the 1976 Schoolhouse Rock segment, I'm Just a Bill. The Simpsons version was I'm an amendment to be. In the episode, when the amendment is ratified, the character then says, "Doors open, boys," to which a ton of other amendment or bill looking characters start storming up the steps of the Capitol Hill building. They're holding a bunch of weapons to defend themselves. Some have been making the comparison that this is what the actual scene at the Capitol building looked like on January 6th. It's pretty creepy.
Alright, number 9, The Simpsons predicted Toys R Us shutting down. It was actually pretty funny in how they showed that Toys R Us was shutting down. All they did was they went up a ladder and they turned the R around, and then that means it's shut down. Yeah, that was my reaction when I heard Toys R Us was shutting down. I was pretty sad about it. But for some reason, Toys R Us here in Canada, they're still around. So I did a little bit of research. Toys R Us has been around for over 70 years, since the 40s, which sucks because it's technology, it's our lazy generation that is getting these big companies like this to shut down. People can just order on Amazon and online. I actually miss Blockbusters where you can actually go into the store, you can check out the new releases, and you can rent them. But now I just sit in front of Netflix all day trying to pick what I want to watch. Going back to Toys R Us, the company's North American operations filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy production back in 2017. In 2018, they added their British operations into that as well. Earlier on this year, they announced that Toys R Us will be shutting down all of its US and British stores. I think by now most of them have been shut down. And for up here in Canada, well, we'll see what happens. At number 8, somehow The Simpsons predicted the Nobel Prize winner.
We're watching the Nobel Prize announcements live from Stockholm.
Ooh, the Nobies!
For economics, Jagdish Bhagwati.
Huzzah! I had him in the pool.
Lucky.
Milhouse is a pure genius and a psychic because he predicted the winner of the Nobel Prize back in 2010, which is 6 years before Holstrom actually won. Holstrom won the 2016 Nobel Prize in economics for work on contact theory and how to evaluate whether things should be government run or privately owned. Number 7. Back in 1998, The Simpsons episode Lord of the Dance, you can see Homer and Bart Simpson decided to recycle grease for money. So after Homer found out that the grease can be sold for money, he started his own operation. This actually became reality years later. In fact, 15 years later, people were caught stealing grease from restaurants in order to make some money. Listen to this.
Soaring gasoline prices spawn a new kind of bizarre crime, the stealing of grease.
As in restaurant grease.
Is this real life right now? Who the heck is buying restaurant grease? Well, apparently you can actually use grease to run your car instead of gas. So with the gas prices going up in New York, people actually started stealing cooking grease. So just when you thought you've heard it all. The Simpsons predicted the Rolling Stones will be on tour in 2010 during a 1995 episode. This bold prediction that came true is at number 6. During the episode titled Lisa's Wedding, there was also a scene where she was lying in bed and beside her was the Rolling Stones poster. And on the poster it said Steel Wheelchair Tour 2010. Okay, did you guys see it? The Rolling Stones have had an incredible run. They've been touring since 1962. They are actually still touring today. Right now they're on their No Filter tour. There doesn't seem to be any slowing down despite their age. During the 2010 episode, it looked like they were done touring after their successful Bigger Bang tour. At the time, it was the highest grossing tour of all time, earning over $550 million. And just when it seemed like the Rolling Stones, well, they might have been done touring, they toured again 5 years later, just like the Simpsons predicted. The legendary Mick Jagger is 75 years old and he's still rocking out, and his concert tour will end next year in June. The drummer for the Rolling Stones, Charles Robert Watts, is 77 years old and he's still beating the drum. The three-eyed fish prediction that came true is next up at number 5. So that was one of the earliest episodes. That was episode 17 during season 2, and it was when Bart caught a three-eyed fish. Little did we know that years later it would become reality. 21 years after the episode aired, a fisherman in Argentina caught a three-eyed wolffish. Here's a picture of it. It was caught in a reservoir near a local nuclear power plant. So that explains a bit. The fisherman caught the fish in the dark and didn't realize its third eye until he looked at the fish with the flashlight, and he was totally shocked. He thought he caught a rare specimen, but it was just a fish that was affected by the exposure to the water from the nuclear power plant. So this fish, it like totally mutated. I don't know if it was like evolving. And you know what? The Simpsons called it. Even in this episode, you can see the power plant. And this made headline news in Springfield, just like it made headline news in real life. Number 4, the Simpsons predicted FaceTime years before FaceTime was even a thing. Take a look at this picture right here. This was from the Lisa's Wedding episode on The Simpsons that aired back in 1995. This was 12 years before the iPhones or smartphones even came out. The Simpsons predicted that one day people will be able to communicate through a video on their phones. Marge Simpson is seen here in a video on one of those really old phones. You know, the phones that you had to put your fingers in the hole, you gotta turn it around and dial. I don't really know how it works. I've seen it in a museum one time, and I remember seeing it at my grandma's house. Skype didn't even come out to 2003, so having a video call with someone was just unheard of. It was very futuristic. The Simpsons are for sure well ahead of their time. They know exactly what's happening and when. Now at number 3, we have The Simpsons predicting Guitar Hero. Take a look at this picture right here. This was aired in 2002. You can see Mick Jagger and Keith Richards giving Homer Simpson a jacket that has Guitar Hero printed on the back of it. 3 years after the episode aired, Guitar Hero actually came out. I don't know if the name of the game was inspired by The Simpsons, but it's pretty weird.
What are you doing?
We're playing the Guitar Hero.
So that was actually one of the advertisements for Guitar Hero. I remember when this game came out and it was so sick. I got kind of good at Guitar Hero, but then I stopped because I think I just got used to all the same songs. I never really produced more of it. And I don't even know if they still produce newer Guitar Heroes, like versions, or if they've released more songs into the game. Roy's Tiger Attack is up next at number 2. We hate to see this next. Not aired during the 5th season. Well, 10 years after that episode in 2003, this happened. So during the show, it was said that Roy was attacked by his own tiger, just like The Simpsons predicted. Well, there's actually an update on this story. Roy spoke about what happened 11 years after the tiger attack. Roy, who is German-American, is a magician and entertainer, and he works with his partner, Siegfried. There are videos online of the tiger attack during one of his shows, but everything wasn't what it seemed. So Roy actually passed out on the ground, and the tiger noticed Roy not moving, so the tiger grabbed Roy by his throat, like tigers do with their cubs, to try to help them. Well, you know what? Let's hear Roy himself tell the rest of the story.
Well, he took care of me. He said my artery was absolutely blessing because there's going to blood pressure. Otherwise you would be brain dead.
You were saying, the doctor was saying that had Montecore not relieved the pressure, you would not have lived?
So when everyone thought the tiger attacked Roy, the tiger actually saved his life. Doctors said that if it wasn't for the tiger relieving the pressure in his head, Roy would have been in a vegetable state. I mean, it's so crazy. So I guess the Simpsons, they sort of half predicted this one. Finally, number 1, we have the donut-shaped universe theory. How the heck did the Simpsons predict this one? Imagine they also predict the flat earth theory as well. I mean, maybe they have.
Your theory of a donut-shaped universe is intriguing, Homer. I may have to steal it.
Wow, I can't believe someone I never heard of is hanging out with a guy like me.
So it was Homer Simpson that came up with the donut-shaped Earth theory. And you know what, it was amazing seeing Stephen Hawking making another appearance on The Simpsons. He has made so many of them.
I say, my IQ is 199 for crying out loud. 198, 197.
Big deal. My IQ is 280.
Stephen Hawking! Okay, starting us off, in at number 10, we have teleportation. The Simpsons created this scene that took place at a garage sale, and what was up for sale was this teleporting machine. This episode seemed way into the future, because the machine was being sold for just $2, as if it was like just a normal item. Homer Simpson bought it. He was kind of unsure about it, but he bought it and he took it home to use. He put one of the devices on the bottom of his stairs and he put the other device on the top of his stairs, and that's what he used the machine for. So now he never has to use the stairs again. I'm pretty sure there are much better ways to use a teleporting machine. What would you guys use a teleporting machine for? Let me know in the comment section below. And please give me better ideas than Homer Simpson. Next up, number 9, I think it would be awesome in 2020 to have our first ever female president of America.
Excellent question. Yes, I am proud to be America's first straight female president. Helen?
Wasn't I wearing a hat?
Yes, you were.
Presidency has been around since 1789, and for hundreds of years, there just never was a female president. I don't know why. I think it's time to change that. Hillary Clinton was very close to being the first ever female president of America. Well, we should see a higher number of females running for presidency in 2020. I know President Donald Trump would be devastated to be beaten by a female, but I think it's time for change. Imagine Oprah running. I think she would beat him for sure. Others who would probably beat Trump is Ellen DeGeneres, Michelle Obama, Taylor Swift, Beyonce. Let's add her onto this list. She'd be the best singing president of all time. And actually, you know what? Thinking about it, I can probably list so many people that would be awesome presidents in 2020. Who do you guys think should be the next American president, and list females only? And if it had to be a male who's going to be the next president, I would vote for Morgan Freeman, and let's just hope he gives speeches like very often, because I would just listen to him, and whatever he said, I would just say yes. And I would listen to the president until I fell asleep at night, like every single night. Is that a little creepy? I think so. So you know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to number 8. From teleporting to a female president now to time traveling to the past, because why not? How sick would that be? I don't even know where I would go.
I've gone back to the time when dinosaurs weren't just confined to zoos.
I would probably go back in time to confirm a few things. Maybe find out who the first flat earther was. I would want to witness the first moon landing, maybe take a look at some dinosaurs, maybe find out what actually wiped them out, and I would also time travel to find out what came first, the chicken or the egg, because that is a pretty important thing to figure out. Number 7, hovering of vehicles. Okay, who knows, this one can actually be reality soon. Technology is advancing so much, so why not? How awesome would this be? You don't have to worry about traffic ever again. You can just fly over vehicles. It won't be scary to drive in the wintertime because you don't have to worry about slipping on ice. Concepts for flying cars have already started. It seems very scary, but flying in airplanes used to be terrifying, but now it's a pretty normal thing. At number 6, we have commercial jetpacks. Jetpacks for everyone. Jetpack for you, jetpack for you, jetpack for Oprah. The Simpsons had an episode where Chief Officer Wiggum became the Sky Police. Imagine this.
I'm not the police anymore. I'm the Sky Police. Okay. I think I got it.
I think this would be so cool. I would never be late for work ever again. I could just jetpack to the studio. I mean, jetpacks have been around, but not for commercial use. Imagine it being sold at Walmart. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Moving into number 5, imagine magic is real. Well, take a look at this. Now this would either be awesome or a really bad thing, a horrible idea. You wouldn't want magic to be in the wrong hands. Maybe if we can have like some sort of quality control over magic, it would be so amazing to have. We could magically create food for a country that doesn't have enough food, we can create water, and we can even cure people. With magic, there's just an endless amount of things that we can do. Imagine we only had so much magic in the world. I wonder how we would vote and what we would use the magic for. Like what if we had like only like 100 spells and that's it? I don't know what the most important thing is right now with trying to fix the world. This has me thinking way too much, so you know what, let's move on to something else. Something like cloning. Well, cloning comes up at number 4. Imagine being able to make 2 of yourselves. Chores would be done so much faster, and if you want days off of work, you could just send your clone into work. Or maybe you can have like 10 jobs so you can bring in more money. Because the economy these days, it just sucks. So cloning people would either be the best thing or the worst idea ever. But you heard it first here on The Simpsons. Alright, moving on to number 3. Imagine having the ability to bring people back to life. Who would you guys bring back? I would bring back so many people. Well, in a Simpsons episode, in the future, Bart Simpson was brought back to life with a quick zap of a gun.
Say, let's bring him back to life by using technology.
Ay, caramba!
And actually, scientists are already working on bringing people back to life. People are cryogenically freezing themselves in the hopes that one day they'll be brought back to life. For example, if some people have cancer and they're losing the battle, they'll try to freeze themselves in time, hoping that in the future when technology comes around, they'll be able to cure them. And then they can be melted down and cured. Organizations are actually charging people as much as $200,000 to have this done. I don't know how I feel about this whole thing and if it's going to be even possible to one day revive the dead, but you know what, it's an interesting thought to think about. Number 2, personalized robots.
With their new love bots. Make me a Bloody Mary, dollface.
No, Selma. Even a robot built only to love you cannot love you. I am leaving with your sister's concudroid.
Imagine your own robot. I honestly think this could be a reality. They can help you with everyday tasks. There would be no more loneliness. Not too long ago, China, they actually just debuted their first AI news anchor, and it's just incredible. It's scary though. The future seems to be closer than we think. Take a look at this.
Hello, everyone. I'm an English artificial intelligence anchor. This is my very first day in Xinhua News Agency. My voice and appearance are modeled on Zhang Zhao, a real anchor with Xinhua. The development of the media industry calls for continuous innovation.
Is this real life right now? How is that a robot? It's just too real. It's pretty scary when you think about it. And didn't we just have a robot last year become the first ever robot citizen of Saudi Arabia?
So, hold on, can you solve this puzzle for us? Can robots be self-aware, conscious, and know they're robots?
Well, let me ask you this back. How do you know you are human?
Finally, at number 1, superpowers. Imagine science figured out a way to give everyone superpowers. Well, maybe not the criminals. I would probably pass on them. But how awesome would this be?
The radioactive explosion gave us the power to move things with our intellect. Flowers for the lady.
Bart, what powers did your brain give you?
Just imagine the Harry Potter movie being real. I don't think everyone having superpowers would be good, but what if a selection of people who were highly trained enough, well, they were the ones that were allowed to have superpowers to fight justice. They would be called superhero crime fighters. Having superpowers could save millions of lives, but given in the wrong hands, it might destroy millions of lives. So maybe we gotta rethink that one.
Starting us off at number 10 is Mars. Now in the last few years there's been an increasingly big interest in Mars and whether we can somehow inhabit it or find a way to make it habitable for humans. I actually even remember the day Mars 1 was announced in 2012. It was supposed to be the first project to land humans humans on Mars and allow them to create a colony over there. Honestly, I even contemplated signing up, but I was like 3. Okay, I wasn't 3 years old, but you get what I mean. The project ended up going bankrupt last year, but I mean, definitely worth a try. In the Simpsons episode, Lisa volunteers for a future one-way trip to Mars whose conception was put forth by Exploration Incorporated, a company that plans on colonizing Mars before 2026. To try and dissuade her, the whole family actually ends up signing up to go as well. The takeoff ends up being fake, but Marge and Lisa end up making it to Mars in 2051, only for Lisa to be like, actually screw this, I want to live on Venus. Like, relax dude. I mean, as we know, Elon Musk's SpaceX is developing Mars-bound cargo flights that are set to leave in 2022, but who knows if that could come earlier and be ready this year. Colonizing Mars would require such an insane budget, but if anyone has the means and I trust to do it, it's Elon Musk. We stan Musk. We stan Elon Musk. Well, I definitely do. Coming in at number 9 is Hologram Mail. In one of the hundreds of episodes that have aired, a look into the future shows a deadbeat Bart getting a hologram mail. The mail shows a man talking and wanting to hire his band for a club gig, and it gave me Star Wars vibes when Obi-Wan Kenobi finally sees the hologram message from Princess Leia. Anyway, nerd moment over. HD3 holograms are already available at places like Best Buy. No, that's not a sponsorship. So could hologram mail be that out of the question? Excluding mailing parcels and whatnot, I feel like for any written message, a person can easily just send a hologram instead. Everyone on Earth can just each have a compatible hologram mail console at home, and that person will just receive it instantly without delays, without shit getting lost in the mail, and without destroying the planet. I mean, Post travels, it uses transportation and destroys trees, so I mean, this could be very sustainable as well. Let's think about it. Elon Musk, are you writing this down? At number 8, we have Big Ben. The infamous tower was featured in the 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding, where the show looks into the future, which was 2010 at the time. Can you imagine? We're in 2020. It's getting real. Now, plot twist, 2010 wasn't actually as great as they thought it'd be. Sorry. Now, in the episode, Lisa falls in love with a Brit and travels to England to meet his parents. By 2010, the face of the clock tower shows the time digitally instead of via a regular clock face. And I mean, as we know, the clock tower was silenced for renovations back in August of 2017, and the renovation was more for conservation purposes, but I mean, who knows, maybe they just didn't announce it that it was going to be digital because it would be too much outcry against it. Big Ben was built in 1859 and it really is a massive cultural landmark, and I can see why people would be against it going digital, but I mean, that would make it a lot easier to preserve. Can't imagine that happening though, but I mean, it's a nice idea. Filling our number 7 slot is a female president. In the year 2000, the episode and wherein Bart travels to the future to see what he would be doing. He's kind of a bum, which is not surprising considering his track record in the show, and Lisa Simpson actually turns out to become the president of the United States. And honestly, I would support Lisa in that position 100%. Like, she was made to be president. Honestly, have you seen the show? America was super close to getting a female president with Hillary Clinton, but that didn't work out sadly. But I honestly feel like they will get one sooner rather than later, and I think that's exactly what they need. Female president, we need that. Now at number 6 is Ivanka for president. Since they're riding the whole female president train right now anyway, in an episode that aired in 2016, Homer can be seen wearing an Ivanka 2028 campaign button. Ivanka Trump being Donald Trump's daughter, for anyone that was unaware of that. And I mean, honestly, it's not even unheard of if she actually ran for president. Of course, for a president, there are preferred qualifications and qualities like not being a racist, but hey, if Trump didn't make those prerequisites, who says his successor has to either? She has the funding, she has the business knowledge. Does she know anything else? Probably not. But I mean, we all saw the impossible joke come true when Trump was actually elected, so who knows, Ivanka could take his place. We don't know. The Trumps are clearly doing the impossible, so I mean, 2020. Coming in at number 5 is proof of Bigfoot. We've all seen the blurry pictures of Bigfoot over the years that were all coined the concrete evidence of Bigfoot being real. We've heard the stories of eyewitness accounts and sightings, but I mean, in the words of a millennial, Pixar didn't happen. In a 2002 episode, Bart takes a bus and goes to Canada, and when he gets off, he sees the real Sasquatch right in front of him, just walking and really just straight up vibing. So I mean, could it be possible that this year is finally the year we get concrete proof that this creature is in fact real? Will someone finally capture an HD phone picture of it and the myth be over? I guess we'll just circle back to this video in 10 months and find out. At number 4 is music mind control. In the 2001 episode New Kids on the Block, Bart's boy squad turns into a band called the Party Posse. But what they don't know is that the band is a psy-ops project orchestrated by the US Navy with the end goal of bombarding kids with hidden messages. The band's hit song Drop the Bombs chorus features the line Yivan et Nyoj, which is join the Navy backwards. And I mean, it's no secret that music and art are the backbone of the world. I truly believe there's no joy in the world without art. Music is such an escape for so many people, it's such an enjoyable thing, and companies are already trying to brainwash you through advertising schemes and propaganda, so there'd be no surprise if they or even the government tried music as their next outlet. What would they try? Nothing is sacred anymore, honestly. Filling at number 3 slot are pet photographers. Hear me out, I don't mean people who have photo shoots with their pets, because I feel like anyone that has a pet takes at least 90 photos of them daily, me 100% included. If you follow me on Instagram, it's just my cat. But forget the selfie stick even. In the 2011 episode Holidays of Future Past, and the episode essentially ends in the family pets taking the group family photo. Clearly, pets had evolved a lot in those 30 years and somehow got taught how to take pictures with phones. And I feel like maybe not this year, but we could definitely teach pets how to do that. But also, is that really necessary? Like, just use a self-timer. Use a tripod. Get someone else to take it. But I get sometimes there's no one there, except your dog, who's just looking at you like, I don't know what to do. Take the picture, Spot. Now at number 2 is the suppression of sustainable energy, which I genuinely feel has been happening since the first time someone decided to use renewable energy instead of non-renewable sources. And in the episode Paths to Glory, Lisa invents a solar-powered car and enters a roller derby race because our girl is a damn good overachiever. Now during the race, she's inches away from winning, but then a Duff beer blimp blocks out the sun, therefore slowing her down and reducing her speed to 0 just before the finish line. She obviously didn't end up winning, and so the townspeople in barbaric fashion gather around her, pointing and laughing. But what's the real subtlety behind this episode? The fact that the success of this alternative renewable form of energy was sabotaged and completely ruined by a huge corporate interest, because let's face it, Duff beer is massive in the show. I feel like the war between the renewable energy industry and big corporate businesses will never end if the latter views the former as them having to invest more money. Because investing more money means making less money in the short term, but more in the long run. Just remember that. Short-term losses, long-term gains. Save the planet. Aiming for Miss Universe 2020. And finally, at number 1 is Love Day. Now in the 200th episode of the series Trash of the Titans, Mr. Costington needed a way to boost sales in the summer, and the lack of summer holidays just wasn't helping. So he creates the August holiday of Love Day as a way of scamming people into buying love-themed presents and toys for no reason whatsoever. So naturally, it did really well. Now speaking of Love Day, Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and that makes a killing everywhere. Everyone's out here buying things for their loved ones. But I mean, getting back to the point, the show is right, there aren't enough holidays in the summer, and as the disease of capitalism will never rid society, everyone's always trying to make more money. So honestly, I think there are enough holidays in the summer. My birthday's in the summer, which should be like a month-long holiday in August if I'm honest. Leo mentality.
Coming in at number 10, we have The Simpsons are yellow because they don't have livers. Sure, there are a lot of crazy theories as to why the Simpsons characters are yellow. These vary from because they're drawn that way to it being a byresult of living near a nuclear power plant. It always comes back to mutants in some ways with the Simpsons, I think. One theory, however, is that the Simpsons characters are yellow because they don't have livers. Yellow skin is a symptom of liver disease, so I guess that's where they got this one from. One Redditor, Kyle5, wrote that they think everyone in the Simpsons verse gave themselves liver disease by drinking too much Duff beer. They then evolved to not need pesky livers anymore and are somehow surviving and thriving. Honestly, I'm not sure about this one. Coming in at number 9, The Simpsons predicted President Trump. This might be the first prediction theory on this list, but it won't be the last. A lot of people think that the creators of The Simpsons knew about the Trump campaign well before it was announced. Indeed, it is in several episodes that aired long before the 45th Pres of the United States began campaigning. Here's a clip from a 2000 episode of The Simpsons.
You know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
Some also say that this predicts that Hillary will precede Trump as president. Lisa is wearing a pantsuit after all, right? Again, there is an episode in which Homer finds himself in President Trump's hair. In his hair, there are signs for Trump 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024, 2028, etc. While he didn't get nominated as a candidate in 2012, they were only 4 years off their prediction. Homer was then turfed out of his hair and stood behind Trump as he was on the campaign trail. Coming into to number 8, The Simpsons creators knew about nuclear spills. There was an episode of The Simpsons in 1990 where Bart is fishing in the Springfield local river, but it seems that the stream was polluted by the nuclear plant that Homer works at. Because of the nuclear waste in the stream, fish had been mutating. Bart pulls out a three-eyed fish from the river. Have a look at this. Weirdly, 21 years later, a three-eyed catfish was pulled from a river in Argentina. Now this was in the Gowanus Canal to be precise. Now it seems that actually this was as a result of a nuclear spill. Did the Simpsons know about various nuclear plants dumping waste into water? Was this a case of the Simpsons predicting the future again? Or is it a coincidence? With the Simpsons, is there such thing as a coincidence? More mutants are coming in at number 7. Marge is a mutant. There is a theory out there going around that Marge is a mutant. A lot of time has been spent speculating on what is going under Marge Simpson's trademark blue hair. How does it stay, well, so up? It seems that there is a strong theory circulating that Marge is actually, a mutant. Being born and raised in Springfield, where we know there's a nuclear power plant, Marge may have been deformed in the womb and was then born with none other than a set of rabbit ears. This provides the structure to her hair. It seems that this theory is confirmed in the Simpsons arcade game when her hair is sucked into a vacuum and we see the ears for ourselves. We also see them in an X-ray of Marge, but weirdly in a few episodes of The Simpsons, Marge appears with straight hair and the ears are nowhere to be seen. Either she's sprouted them at one point in the narrative, or she's had them removed, or maybe there are many parallel universes in which The Simpsons exist, which would explain a lot of the jumping around timelines and storylines. Coming into number 6, The Simpsons predicted the horse meat scandal. The horse meat scandal erupted in Europe in 2013. In the scandal, undeclared horse meat was slipping into foods. Huge retailer Tesco were outed for having horse meat in their beef burgers, and Taco Bell were found to have horse meat in their tacos. One food brand, Findus, had 99% horse in their beef lasagna. Long before the scandal broke, weirdly, The Simpsons made a reference to it in 1994. It's in an episode where the lunch cook is digging into a barrel of assorted horse parts to dish up to the kids of Springfield Elementary. Was this predicting the future, or did they know a little something that we didn't? Coming into number 5, Marge has no friends, which is really sad. Beyond that though, honestly, it's pretty scary as there's suggestions that Homer likes it that way and uses it to keep her trapped and loyal. BoJack Horseman creator Raphael Bob Waksberg actually began this theory in 2016 when he tweeted, "Does Marge have any friends?" He then wrote a little 15-tweet poem about it. It was very touching. But now, honestly, you think about it, who are Marge's friends? Homer has Lenny and Kirk and Lorne. She never seems to be close to anyone. Perhaps her only friend was Maude Flanders, but she died. Then she has her negative chain-smoking twin sisters, but that seems to be it. Is there anything scarier than loneliness? Like, honestly, I don't think so. One of the saddest and scariest tweets by Raphael was, "Who tells Marge to leave the brute knowing that she won't? You don't have to stay. You deserve so much more. No one. She's alone in this." That makes me sad. Get out, Marge. Get out. Coming in at number 4, The Simpsons is the next Shakespeare. This one's kind of fun, actually. So most of you watching this video will be aware of William Shakespeare. You've probably seen a few Shakespeare plays or even been made to read them at school. For a while now, we have held the works of William Shakespeare in high esteem, but in his lifetime, his work was considered to be kind of lowbrow. There is a theory out there that in 500 years from now, kids will be studying The Simpsons in school. I actually saw a play that worked with this idea. It was called Mr. Burns, and honestly, it was the best play that I've ever seen. The final act is a reenactment of The Simpsons episodes in opera. All the characters are painted gold, honestly I loved it. So why is this scary? Well, a lot of people call The Simpsons trash and like mind rot, and I don't know, maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but perhaps that trash is more accessible and resonant with people than highbrow artistic offerings. In 500 years time, are people still gonna remember The Simpsons? Honestly, I'm really into the thought of a Simpsons opera. Coming into number 3, this show encourages crime. Homer and the gang are known for their many harebrained schemes. They're always getting into mischief and mishaps, but there is a theory that the show actually encourages real-life crime. It seems that a lot of foolhardy criminals have drawn inspiration from The Simpsons. In one Simpsons episode, Lard of the Dance, that aired in 1998, Homer begins a criminal scheme of stealing grease from friars and then reselling it. But then of course they come to blows with the Grease Mafia. Sure. Anyway, it seems that life began imitating art as several criminals were inspired to try and do exactly the same thing in their own get-rich-quick schemes. 10 years later, the New York Times broke a story about a spike in grease theft from restaurants. How weird. Apparently, yellow grease is a valuable commodity. There was also some speculation that an episode of The Simpsons where Shelbyville kids steal a lemon tree was actually behind a similar crime in Texas in 2013, but I don't know, that might be clutching at straws. Coming into number 2, The Simpsons predicted 9/11 and the higher power theory. When people trawl back through 90s episodes of The Simpsons to see Bart holding up a $9 magazine of New York with the Twin Towers in the background looking very much like an 11, they were actually pretty freaked out. The rest of the predictions can be forgiven, but this was really scary. This one started a wider theory that actually something more untoward was going on, that maybe out there somewhere there was a higher power that was somehow taking influence from the Simpsons episodes and letting it to decide how best to enact their chaos. I don't know about this, but I do think if I was high, I could maybe get into this theory. Like, who's watching? Who? Finally, coming into number 1, Homer has been in a coma the whole time. Nearly. So some of you may have seen the 1993 episode of The Simpsons called So It's Come to This. Homer is crushed by a falling vending machine and goes into a coma. By the end of the episode, Homer wakes up and we have 18 more years of The Simpsons living their lives. Or are they? Redditor Hard to Pick a Name speculates that actually everything that happened after that episode was part of Homer's wild coma dreams. They note a shift in style and tone as the series gets far more wacky. Dream wacky. Further evidence is in an earlier 1993 episode where Homer and God have a talk, and God seems to suggest that he will die in 6 months. Now 6 months is exactly how long it was before the vending machine episode aired. Is he in a coma or is he dead? Is this the afterlife? What does it mean? What does it mean?